All right, buckle up everyone, because we're diving into some seriously spooky stuff today.
Oh, I love spooky stuff.
We're talking 10 scariest true stories of 2024 from Mr. Nightmare's YouTube channel.
You know, those always get me.
So get ready to explore some creepy encounters and unsettling experiences that'll leave you looking over your shoulder.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think what makes these stories so compelling is that they often take place in familiar settings.
Right, like places we've all been?
Yeah, like a camping trip,
Oh, totally.
or even just answering your front door.
It makes you think like, could this happen to me?
Exactly.
And that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Let's do it.
So first up, we're heading to Uncompahgre Forest in Colorado with two cousins, Cody, the experienced Eagle Scout,
Okay.
and the narrator. And they decided to go on a midweek camping trip thinking they'd avoid the crowds. But it turns out maybe being alone wasn't the best idea.
Yeah, you'd think being out in nature would be peaceful, right?
You would.
But there's also that sense of vulnerability when you're isolated like that.
Absolutely. And their first evening is picture-perfect grilling steaks and burgers, playing cards as the sun sets classic rock on the radio.
Yeah.
You know, real camping vibes.
I love it.
But then as night falls, things take a turn.
Of course, as they always do.
They start hearing humming and footsteps coming towards their campsite, and then silence.
Spooky.
Right. They try to keep playing cards, but the tension is so thick you can practically feel it through the screen.
It's like the calm before the storm, you know?
Oh, I know.
You know something's coming.
Yeah, and that unknown is what really gets under your skin.
For sure.
Is it an animal? Is it another camper? Or is it something else?
Something else.
And then a stick gets tossed into their campsite.
Oh, no.
More footsteps.
Okay.
But whoever it is, they're gone before the cousins can see them.
This is scary.
They grab their bear spray
Good idea.
and decide to take turns keeping watch all night.
Talk about a ruined camping trip.
I know, right? But it gets worse.
Oh, no.
The narrator wakes up in the middle of the night to a figure staring into his tent. He thinks it's his cousin Cody, but when he checks, Cody's sound asleep in his own tent.
Oh, my gosh. That moment of realizing you're truly alone
Oh yeah,
and something else is out there, it sends chills down your spine.
absolutely. Needless to say, they leave at the crack of dawn, totally freaked out.
I would be too.
I mean, who wouldn't be?
So what do you think was out there in the forest with them?
Right. Was it a person or something else?
Let us know your theories in the comments.
Okay, hold on tight, because our next story takes us to a remote cabin near Mount Bachelor in Oregon.
Okay.
A young man decides to stay there after a personal tragedy, hoping to find some peace and quiet, kind of like the cousins, right?
Yeah.
Seeking solace in nature.
Yeah, it's interesting how often people turn to nature for comfort and healing, especially after loss.
Yeah,
There's a sense of serenity and connection that can be found in the wilderness.
absolutely. And at first, it's exactly what he needs. He spends his days playing with his dog Midnight snowboarding and enjoying the peaceful evenings. But then he starts noticing fresh footprints in the snow around the cabin, and they lead into the dense forest.
Oh.
Those footprints are such a simple detail, but they completely change the atmosphere of the story.
Yeah, for sure.
Suddenly, you know, he's not alone.
Right.
Like, who else is out there, and why are they so close to the cabin?
Exactly, and what are they doing out there?
That night, his dog Midnight starts acting really strange.
Oh, no.
He's alert, pacing, sniffing the house, even looking up at the roof like something's up there.
You know, animals are incredibly perceptive.
They are.
And I always think it's interesting how dogs in particular seem to sense things we humans often miss.
Totally.
Could Midnight have picked up on something his owner didn't?
That's a good question.
I think so.
Later that night, he hears footsteps on the roof.
Oh, no.
He grabs his flashlight, heads out onto the balcony to investigate.
Okay, think about being in that situation alone in a remote cabin at night
Oh my gosh.
with strange footprints outside and your dog acting agitated. Every little sound would make you jump, right?
It would.
I'd be terrified.
Oh, absolutely.
I wouldn't even be able to sleep.
And what he sees next is terrifying. In a nearby tree, there's this tall, thin, shadowy figure crouching with its long arms reaching up above its head.
I don't like this.
It's like something straight out of a nightmare.
It really makes you wonder if this is a case of his imagination running wild, fueled by grief and isolation?
Right.
Or was there truly something sinister lurking in those woods?
Totally, and that's what I'm thinking.
That's
Like,
a good question.
is this in his head?
Yeah.
Or is this real?
Yeah.
He gets spooked, obviously, and heads back inside. Later that night, he hears tapping on his balcony door, almost like someone's trying to get his attention.
Oh.
But remembering his deceased father's advice to stay safe, he ignores it.
That's such a tough call.
It is.
Curiosity and fear are battling it out in his mind.
Totally.
Do you risk opening the door? Or do you stay safe inside but never know what might have been out there?
It's a tough one.
What would you do?
What would you do?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
He ends up packing up and leaving the next morning, though he just can't shake the feeling that something sinister was watching him.
I wouldn't be able to either.
And this story leaves us with a lot of unanswered questions.
It does.
Was the figure a real threat? Was the tapping a genuine attempt at contact?
Yeah.
Or something more sinister? And does his grief play a role in what he experiences? It's definitely something to think about.
Definitely.
Okay, this next one might hit close to home for some of you. But you ever scored an amazing deal on Craigslist?
Oh, yeah. I've gotten some good finds on Craigslist.
Well, this is a Craigslist phone deal gone wrong.
Oh, no.
A young man is searching for a used iPhone
Okay.
and finds what seems like the perfect deal. Too bad it's too good to be true.
You know, these online scams are so prevalent nowadays.
They are.
It's a good reminder to always be cautious when dealing with strangers online.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The seller, Melvin, initially says he's nearby, but then he changes the meeting location to an hour north. Red flag number 1, right?
Yeah. That's a big one. Anytime a seller suddenly changes the meeting place, especially to somewhere more remote,
Yeah.
it's a major cause for concern.
Totally. The guy convinces his friend Martina to go with him, just in case.
Okay, good idea.
Melvin then suggests they meet at a police precinct parking lot, saying he prefers safe locations for transactions. Seems believable.
Right. It's a common tactic that scammers use to appear more trustworthy.
Totally.
They try to lull you into a false sense of security.
They get to the precinct and, surprise, surprise, Melvin's a no-show. But then he calls, claiming he's having car trouble, and asks them to meet him on this deserted road surrounded by woods.
Oh, no, are you kidding me?
I mean, come on, how many red flags do you need?
So many red flags.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, like this is not how you get a cheap iPhone.
Yeah,
At this point, it's pretty clear that something's fishy. It's like he's intentionally trying to isolate them.
exactly. And I think that's the key takeaway from that is like if someone's trying to get you to go like an hour away,
Yeah.
and then to some random place that's in the middle of nowhere,
It's bad news.
yeah, that's not a good sign.
No.
They drive to the location cautiously and see a black car parked on the side of the road, but there's no one inside or outside.
Yeah.
Smartly, they decide to just drive past.
Okay, good.
But that's when the calls and texts start pouring in from Melvin, urging them to come back and help.
That sense of urgency and pressure is another common manipulation tactic.
It is.
Scammers try to rush you into making a decision before you have time to think things through.
Exactly. They stop at a diner and actually run into a guy who fits Melvin's description. Talk about creepy coincidences.
Yeah, what are the chances?
Right. As they're leaving the diner, they spot a black car in the parking lot, possibly the same one from the deserted road.
Oh my gosh, he's like, they can't escape this guy.
I know.
Their intuition is screaming at them to get out of there.
And they do. But as they're driving away, the guy gets a low tire pressure warning. Turns out Melvin slashed his tire.
What?
They managed to escape unharmed, but they're definitely shaken up.
Wow, this story is a wild ride.
It is.
It makes you wonder what Melvin's true intentions were.
I know.
Was he just after their money? Or was something more sinister going on?
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder to trust your gut instincts.
Yeah,
If something feels off, it probably is.
absolutely.
Okay, get ready for this next one.
It's a high school reunion unlike any other, and not in a good way.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Our main character is a young man attending what his date, Phoebe claims, is her high school reunion.
Already something feels a little off, right?
Yeah.
High school reunions usually happen at specific times and places,
Yeah,
not just whenever someone decides to throw a party.
exactly. They arrive at this fancy house for the reunion, and he immediately feels uncomfortable. Everyone's staring at him like he doesn't belong.
Have you ever felt that way?
Oh, yeah.
Like you walked into a room and everyone knows something you don't?
Yes.
It's a pretty unsettling feeling.
It is, and then the guests start asking him all these personal questions,
Oh.
which is already weird.
But they also seem way older than Phoebe, who's supposedly only 28.
The inconsistencies are starting to pile up,
Yeah,
which just adds to the overall creepiness of the situation.
totally.
Yeah.
He decides to escape to the bathroom for a break from the weirdness.
Smart.
While he's in there texting his friends about how strange everything is, someone knocks on the door.
Oh no, what
It's
now?
another guy from the party, and he tells our main character to get out of there.
Oh no.
He says, Phoebe isn't who she says she is and that something bad is going to happen.
It's like a scene from a horror movie.
It is.
You get that warning, but you're not sure if you should believe it or not.
Right. And it's like in those movies, you always think, like, why don't they listen?
I know.
Like, why don't they run away when they have a chance?
Ah,
But he does.
good for him.
He decides to play it safe
Good.
and leaves without confronting Phoebe. Later, he looks up Phoebe's real name and address and realizes the guy was telling the truth.
Oh my gosh.
His friends even admit they thought she was strange but didn't want to say anything.
Wow, what a close call.
It is.
It really makes you think about who you can trust.
It does.
What do you think was really going on at that reunion?
Right. Was it some kind of cult?
Yeah.
Or something even weirder?
These first 4 stories have been a wild ride, from creepy forests and remote cabins to online scams and suspicious reunions. It seems like danger can lurk anywhere.
It can.
What do you think so far?
I'm already looking over my shoulder.
Yeah.
But we're only halfway through.
Oh my gosh.
We've got 6 more chilling tales to unravel.
Okay.
And things are about to get even creepier.
Can't wait.
So stay tuned.
Oh.
Okay, we're back with more of Mr. Nightmare's 10 Scariest True Stories of 2024. And these next few stories, they really get to me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're creepy.
Like they really get under my skin.
You know what I find fascinating about these stories is how they blur the lines between what's real and what's imagined.
Oh, yeah.
It makes you question your own perception.
Absolutely. And this next story takes us into the mind of an 8-year-old boy. His older brother, Chris, has just been in a car accident. And the family is understandably shaken up.
Yeah, imagine the emotional turmoil a child experiences in a situation like that.
Oh, it's got to be awful.
Their world is suddenly turned upside down.
Yeah.
And their sense of security is shattered.
Absolutely. So he's lying in bed trying to sleep when he hears his parents arguing downstairs.
Oh.
Then they abruptly leave the house.
Oh, no.
So he's all alone, and that's when the strange stuff starts happening.
Being home alone at night, especially as a child, can be terrifying.
It is.
Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow in the corner of your eye becomes a potential monster lurking in the darkness.
Totally right. He starts hearing noises downstairs and then footsteps coming up the stairs.
Oh, gosh.
He peeks out his bedroom door, and guess what he sees?
Don't tell me a shadowy figure.
You got a dark figure, just a head peeking in, then it disappears naturally. He's terrified.
I can't even imagine as adults we often dismiss those childhood fears as just our imaginations running wild.
Yeah.
But what if they're not?
Yeah, what if it's something real?
Exactly.
So he decides to be brave
Oh no.
and goes downstairs to investigate.
Oh gosh.
In the kitchen, he sees this tall figure standing in the dark.
Oh no. This is scary.
Thinking it's his dad, he calls out, but the figure responds in this deep, unfamiliar voice, telling him to go back to bed.
That's the stuff of nightmares right there.
Oh, yeah?
A disembodied voice in the dark. It's enough to send chills down anyone's spine.
For sure, he runs back to his room, terrified, and hides under the covers until he hears his parents come home.
Oh.
They're relieved, but also confused. Turns out, in all the chaos of rushing to the hospital with Chris,
Right.
they forgot to lock the door.
That adds a layer of realism to the story, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Even in the midst of a crisis, parents can make mistakes.
Total.
And sometimes those mistakes can have unintended consequences.
Absolutely. He tells his parents about the figure he saw, and they call the police. But even after a thorough search, they find no signs of an intruder.
This story leaves us with more questions than answers.
It's a...
Who was that figure in the house? Was it just a figment of the boy's imagination,
Right.
heightened by fear and the trauma of his brother's accident? Or was it something more unexplainable?
Yeah, it's a creepy one. Okay, get ready for this next story. It's about a direct care aide working the night shift, taking care of a 65-year-old woman with dementia named Martha. Have you ever known anyone with dementia?
I have. My grandmother had dementia in her later years. It's a truly heartbreaking disease.
It is.
It robs people of their memories
Yeah.
and often leads to unpredictable behavior.
It's so sad, and it can be scary too, as this story shows.
Yeah.
So the aide arrives at the house, and Martha's daughter Colleen is getting ready for her own overnight shift.
Okay.
She warns him that Martha tends to wander and get confused at night,
Oh.
which she attributes to the dementia.
It's interesting that Colleen specifically mentions wandering as a symptom of her mother's dementia.
Right.
It suggests that she's aware of the potential risks involved, but perhaps feels unable to manage them herself.
Yeah, it definitely seems like she's relying on the aide to handle whatever might happen.
Right.
At first, things seem pretty normal. The aide settles in, watches some TV, and all is quiet. Then Martha suddenly appears downstairs, yelling and disoriented.
That's typical of dementia sundowning, they call it.
Oh, yeah.
As the day progresses, people with dementia often become more agitated and confused.
Yeah, and it happens a lot with, like, people in nursing homes, too.
Yeah.
Like, that's why they call it sundowning.
Right.
So he manages to calm Martha down,
Mm-hmm.
gets her back to bed with a glass of water
Okay.
and some melatonin.
Good.
Problem solved.
Well, that's what he thinks.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Here we go. A few hours later, he's woken up by this loud banging coming from the kitchen.
Yeah.
He goes down there and finds Martha in the dark, repeatedly opening and slamming the oven door.
That's unsettling, to say the least.
Yeah.
It goes beyond typical dementia-related confusion. There's a level of aggression and intentionality in her actions that's truly disturbing.
It's like she's trying to do something.
Right. It's like she's trying to get something out
Yeah, or put something in.
or put something in.
He tries to get her attention, but she just ignores him, walks past him, and goes back to her room, slamming the door.
Yeah.
He checks on her, and she's just standing there by the wall.
Oh.
He helps her back to bed, hoping that's the end of it.
At this point, I'd be seriously creeped out.
Oh my gosh.
It's like something else is controlling her actions, something dark and sinister.
I know, right? It's giving me chills just thinking about it.
Yeah.
He tries to get some sleep in the spare bedroom,
Oh, no.
but then you guessed it, he's awakened again by a noise coming from the closet.
Oh, no, not the closet.
Oh.
That's every horror movie cliche rolled into one.
It is, but he looks towards the closet
Uh-oh.
and sees Martha peering out, but this time she's holding a large kitchen knife.
Whoa!
Oh.
The stakes just got a lot higher. This is no longer just a case of an elderly woman with dementia wandering around. Now she's a potential threat.
He freaks out, obviously screams, and runs out of the room.
Good for him.
He calls Colleen, who at first doesn't believe him. Thinks he's
Okay.
exaggerating.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but it's a common response, unfortunately.
It is.
People often dismiss the concerns of caregivers, especially when it comes to dementia.
Yeah.
They assume it's just the disease, not something more sinister.
But when she gets home, she finds the knife by Martha's bed, exactly as he described.
So he was telling the truth.
The aide is so shaken by the whole experience that he never goes back to work for Mother. Martha, can you blame him?
Not at all.
This story raises so many unsettling questions.
It does.
Was Martha truly acting out of her dementia? Or was there something else influencing her behavior? And what would have happened if the aide hadn't escaped that room?
Right. It's chilling to think about.
Absolutely. Makes you wonder if there are forces at play that we don't fully understand.
Yeah.
Things that can manipulate and control even the most vulnerable among us.
It's definitely something to ponder. And speaking of vulnerable, our next story is a reminder that even seemingly ordinary situations can quickly turn dangerous.
Okay, tell me more.
This one is about a young woman who moves out of state for a new job
Okay.
and is looking for a roommate to help with expenses. You
Yeah.
know, a pretty common scenario.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been there. Finding a good roommate can be tough, especially when you're in a new city.
Exactly. So she connects with this guy named Rob online. He seems normal, friendly, even gives her a virtual tour of his house. Everything seems fine.
Okay.
So she moves in.
Seems innocent enough. What could go wrong?
Well, that's what she thought, but pretty soon things start to get weird.
Hmm.
Rob is overly friendly, constantly trying to initiate hangouts that feel more like dates,
Oh.
which makes her uncomfortable.
Ugh, I hate when that happens. It's like, can you take a hint?
Right, and then it gets worse. A pair of her underwear goes missing from her laundry.
Oh no.
She installs a lock on her bedroom door
Shows-
for some privacy and security,
Yeah.
which seems perfectly reasonable.
It does.
But Rob is not happy about it.
Whoa, red flag alert.
Right.
That's super creepy and controlling.
Exactly. He bangs on her door late one night. Oh, God.
Demanding to know why she put the lock on and insists she remove it, claiming it violates the roommate agreement.
Talk about overstepping boundaries.
Right.
This guy is bad news. I hope she gets out of there soon.
She does, but not before things escalate even further. Another woman shows up at the house
Oh.
and warns her about Rob's past.
Oh, no.
Turns out he has a history of restraining orders
What?
and stalking behavior.
No way. This is insane.
Yeah,
It's like something out of a true crime podcast. I can't believe she was living with this guy.
it's terrifying how easily people can hide their true nature.
Right.
This story is a good reminder that we can't always judge a book by its cover,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to online interactions.
So what happens next? Does she confront him?
She decides to play it smart.
Okay, good.
She packs her stuff and tells Rob she has to leave because of a family emergency. He agrees to return her deposit after he goes to the bank.
Okay, that's smart. Avoid confrontation
Yeah.
and get out of there as quickly as possible. Exactly. But the story doesn't end there.
Oh,
She wakes up that night,
oh my God.
find Rob sitting on her bed, trying to silence her. He denies any wrongdoing,
Oh.
but his actions are terrifying.
Oh my gosh, that's horrifying. I can't believe he snuck into a room like that. What does she do?
She manages to escape the house,
Good,
calls the police.
good for her.
Thankfully, they help her retrieve her belongings
Okay,
and confront Rob.
that's a relief.
Yeah.
I'm glad she got out of that situation safely.
Me too. And guess what the police reveal?
What?
Rob has a history of arrests for similar incidents.
Oh no.
It's a chilling reminder that abusers often have a pattern of behavior,
Yeah.
and their past actions can be a strong indicator of future violence.
This story is a major wake-up call.
It is.
It shows how important it is to be vigilant when meeting people online,
Yes,
especially when it comes to sharing a living space.
absolutely. Trust your instincts.
Yeah.
If something feels off, it probably is. Don't be afraid to back out of a situation, even if it means losing money or causing inconvenience.
Yeah.
Your safety is paramount.
Speaking of feeling unsafe, this next story is about a teenage boy who's home alone playing video games when the doorbell rings. Sounds pretty ordinary, right?
You'd think so, but you know how these stories go.
I know.
Nothing is ever quite as it seems.
Exactly. He answers the door, and there's this elderly woman standing there.
Oh.
She claims she needs to use the phone.
Okay.
Now, he remembers his parents' rules about not letting strangers in.
For him.
So he tries to be polite, but tells her the library is just down the street.
Good for him. He's following the safety rules.
Yes.
Even though it probably feels a little awkward turning away an elderly woman.
I know, I would feel bad, but I also would not open the door.
Right.
But she doesn't give up easily. She starts guilt-tripping him, calling him rude, which makes him even more uncomfortable.
Oh.
He closes the door and tries to go back to his game,
Yeah.
but then he hears tapping on his window.
Oh no, not the tapping. It's never good when the tapping starts.
It's like she's determined to get his attention.
Right.
The tapping continues, and he starts to feel really scared.
Yeah.
He moves to another room, but then the doorbell starts ringing repeatedly.
He's being targeted.
It is
It's like a psychological game of cat and mouse, and he's the prey.
totally. He decides he has to do something, so he opens the door again, but this time there's a man standing there
Oh.
who claims to be the woman's son.
That sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it? Like
Oh.
we've heard that excuse before.
I know, right? It's like they're using dementia as a cover story to gain access to the house.
It makes you wonder if they're working together or if this is just a coincidence.
Right.
Either way, it's a clever tactic to exploit people's sympathy and lower their guard.
Exactly. The man asks to come inside, but the boy insists on talking through the door. He suggests that the woman might be in the backyard and even gives the man permission to search. But when he checks, neither the man nor the woman is there.
That's so suspicious.
I know.
Why would they disappear like that?
It's like they vanished into thin air.
Yeah.
He's totally creeped out
Yeah.
and decides to just go to bed.
Oh no.
But guess what? He's woken up again this time by the woman tapping a kitchen knife on his window.
Oh my gosh.
And then the doorbell starts ringing again.
This is terrifying.
Right.
She's not just tapping on the window, she's wielding a weapon
Yeah,
that takes things to a whole new level of creepy.
right. It's like something out of a horror movie. He ignores it. He stays in his room and waits until morning. He figures they were probably trying to rob the house, but
Yeah.
he's just glad he didn't let them in.
His instincts were right on the money. Who knows what might have happened if he'd opened that door? This story highlights the importance of trusting your gut and prioritizing your safety,
Yeah,
even if it means seeming rude or unsympathetic.
absolutely. And it makes you think, were they really who they said they were? Or was it all an elaborate ruse to gain access to the house? The truth is, we'll never know. But one thing's for sure, this story is a chilling reminder that danger can lurk even in the most seemingly innocent encounters.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder to stay vigilant.
Yeah.
Be aware of your surroundings.
Yes.
And never underestimate the potential for things to take a dark turn.
It's true. And you never know who to trust. Okay, are you ready for the final two stories from Mr. Nightmare's 10 Scariest True Stories of 2024?
Oh, bring on the creepiness. I'm ready.
You know what I find fascinating about these stories is how they often tap into those primal fears
Yeah.
that are buried deep within us. You know, the fear of the unknown, the fear of the dark, the fear of being alone.
Totally. And I think holidays amplify that fear,
They really do.
especially when it comes to ghost stories and creepy encounters.
Okay, so this next story definitely plays on that fear of the unknown.
Okay.
It's New Year's Eve,
Oh, perfect timing.
right? And a group of friends are gathered at their friend Logan's house.
Okay.
Celebrating the new year, as the party winds down and they're settling in for the night, they start hearing this weird creaking sound.
Ah, New Year's Eve, a time for celebration, reflection, and maybe a few ghost stories.
Right, and it's like the perfect setting for something
Awesome.
spooky to happen.
Yes.
At first, they dismiss the creaking as just the house settling.
Okay.
Old house noises.
Right.
But it gets louder and more persistent. They can't figure out where it's coming from.
It's amazing how the mind can play tricks on you, especially when you're in an unfamiliar environment or feeling a little on edge.
Absolutely. So fueled by a mix of curiosity and maybe a little too much champagne,
I've been there.
they decide to investigate.
Oh, gosh.
They grab some knives from the kitchen,
So smart.
just in case,
Yeah, good idea.
and head down to the basement.
Oh, no, not the basement. That's never a good sign in a horror story.
No, they're searching for an intruder, but they find nothing,
Oh,
except for the source of the creaking sound.
what is it?
And get this, it's a rocking chair belonging to Logan's deceased grandmother,
No way.
rocking back and forth all by itself.
A rocking chair. Seriously.
Yes.
That's so simple yet so incredibly creepy. It's like a visual representation of that unseen presence,
Yeah.
that lingering energy that we can't explain.
It freaks him out. They run back upstairs, and Logan ends up keeping that basement door locked for days until his parents get back.
I don't blame him one bit. This story really makes you wonder about the thin veil between the living and the dead.
Totally.
Was it truly the grandmother's spirit rocking in that chair? Or was it something else entirely?
It's a good question. We'll never know.
What do you think? Let us know in the comments.
Okay, brace yourself for this last story. It's about a fourth grader named Tommy who's waiting for his mom to pick him up after school on the last day of school.
Oh.
It's a day for excitement and anticipation, right?
Yes, it is.
But for Tommy, it quickly turns into a nightmare.
Oh no, it's heartbreaking to think about a child's sense of safety being shattered like that, especially in a place that's supposed to be familiar and secure like their school.
I know a man approaches him claiming to be his friend Dennis's uncle. He says he's there to take Tommy home because Dennis's dad is working late.
That's a clever tactic, preying on a child's trust and using someone they know to gain their confidence.
Yeah, and it works on Tommy at first.
Of course.
But even at his young age, Tommy senses something isn't right.
good for him.
He notices that Dennis isn't with him and asks why they're not picking him up,
No.
too. The man says Dennis is already at his house, but Tommy's not convinced.
It's amazing how children often have this innate sense of intuition, that gut feeling that tells them when something's not right, even if they can't quite articulate why.
It's true, and I think a lot of adults, we lose that.
Yes, we do.
We kind of push that down.
Yeah.
So it's good that Tommy was still listening to it,
Yeah.
and the man's behavior is off. He's talking fast, seems nervous, and then instead of heading towards Tommy's house,
Uh-oh.
he starts driving in the opposite direction towards a part of town Tommy doesn't recognize.
The red flags are waving furiously at this point.
Yeah.
Every parent's worst nightmare unfolding right before our eyes.
They arrive at this house, and it's dark with all the curtains drawn.
Oh no, I don't like this.
The man tells Tommy to wait inside while he checks on Dennis in the basement,
Oh gosh.
but then he disappears into another room.
The imagery here is so powerful. A dark, unfamiliar house, a shadowy figure disappearing into the unknown. It creates this overwhelming sense of dread and isolation.
Oh, and Tommy knows he's in trouble. He tried to escape through the front door, but it's locked, thinking fast. He finds a phone, dials 911,
Good for him.
and hides the phone under a towel.
Wow, talk about bravery in the face of such terrifying circumstances. This young boy manages to stay calm and take action.
It's true, the man comes back and tries to force Tommy down to the basement.
Oh no.
But just then they hear sirens approaching. The police arrive just in time
Thank goodness.
and rescue Tommy, who is reunited with his frantic parents.
What a relief. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of moments, hope can prevail.
It turns out the man was an associate of Dennis's father who saw an opportunity to abduct Tommy.
That's chilling. It reinforces the idea that evil can often lurk in unexpected places, even among those we might consider acquaintances or even friends of friends.
So there you have it. Mr. Nightmare's 10 Scariest True Stories of 2024. We've been through creepy forests, isolated cabins, online scams, strange encounters, a haunted rocking chair, and even a near abduction. It's been quite a journey.
These stories are more than just entertainment. They serve as cautionary tales reminding us to stay vigilant, trust our instincts, and be prepared for the unexpected.
That's a great point. After all, the most terrifying stories are often the ones that are true.
And they remind us that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe some of these stories will even inspire you to share your own creepy experiences. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of the strange and unsettling. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and sleep tight.